Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm glad you could join me today. My name is Kalyi, and I'm a pranic healer. I have a psychology degree, and I'm a spiritual teacher and coach. Today, we're going to be talking about what is shadow work. So, the shadow is an unconscious aspect of our personality that doesn't correspond with our ego ideal. In other words, we have a perfect idea or picture of what we are. And these things about ourselves do not fit with that picture, which is the ego. So the shadow contains everything that a person refuses to acknowledge about themselves. The psychiatrist and founder of psychology, Carl Jung, first developed the concept of the shadow, and he used the term shadow self to describe the things that people repress and refuse to acknowledge about themselves. According to Jung, our personality includes the persona, which is the part of ourselves that we show to others, and the shadow self, which is the part that we hide from others. The shadow is something that is unacceptable to the person for a variety of reasons. Jung believed that the shadow is not inherently a negative or shameful part of a person's personality. To Jung, it was just another part of the person's psyche. What makes it a problem is when the person who hides a part of their personality does so because they believe that it's negative or shameful, even if it's not in reality. And then they start to disown or hate that part of themselves. They also hide this process from themselves. And as a result, they start to project these hated or disowned parts of themselves onto other people, which causes a lot of conflict. So they can become critical of traits in other people that they actually possess themselves but refuse to acknowledge. The example of this is if someone constantly criticizes other people for being stingy, but yet they are stingy themselves but won't admit it. Another example is if someone is always calling others weak, they may have a perceived weakness in themselves. Even if it's not really a weakness, they perceive it as a weakness, but they won't admit that they have a weakness. But they're always criticizing weakness, so-called weakness, in other people. This is known as projection. Jung believed that people could gain a better understanding of themselves and become more balanced by doing shadow work. So the goal of shadow work is to acknowledge and assimilate the shadow into our persona so that we become aware of these traits and we're able to manage the impulses from these traits instead of ignoring them, dismissing them, or hiding them. So some of the benefits of doing shadow work are firstly to learn to be more accepting of ourselves and to realize that some of the shadow might not even be negative. Also, we can better understand the challenges that other people face with their shadow selves and so develop more empathy. Also, we can confront trauma, grief, and other challenging emotions that we were previously pushing down, hiding, and repressing. We can understand how our childhood and society has influenced us in our current lives and interactions. And also, once we accept our shadow side, we can start to transform it into strengths, such as if you were always angry about how you were treated as a child, you could start to funnel that into advocating for others and fighting for just causes, fighting for social reform. If you considered that you were weak, you might be able to discover that you're really a sensitive and empathetic person It wasn't a weakness. And so discover and develop those parts of yourself rather than hating them as weaknesses. Jung believed that we must become conscious of our own unconscious. Otherwise, our conscious self can become a slave to our shadow self. Shadow work is not a common practice in mainstream psychiatry or psychology because science finds it hard to tangibly measure the shadow because it's very subjective and based on context. So there's not much scientific research that's been done into shadow work. I've researched this for many years and largely identified and resolved my own shadows to a large extent. So I'm able to do shadow work with people. So some tips that I have while doing your own shadow work is firstly to go slowly. Secondly, to be mindful that this can be very upsetting and difficult work. Thirdly, to practice self-care and compassion when unexpected thoughts and emotions arise. Also, to approach shadow work with a spirit of curiosity and acceptance. If you would like to contact me to do shadow work, you're very welcome. So I hope this has been helpful and interesting for you today. Wherever you are in the world, I wish you courage and love on your journey, and I'll see you next time. Take care, thank you for listening, and bye for now.